How from this kind of point on, how long till you got married, or did you have a kid before then?
Dude, like it became like instant,
Oh
right?
wow.
Like so like we like our from our first date, me and Sonny, like the first months we already had said like I love you like right away.
Mm,
And then we were already talking about kids. And then my son Jacob, he's now 6. Um, she was pregnant with Jacob before we got married or anything like that.
right.
Right. So when I told my parents, they kind of like knew. You know what I mean? Your
Sure.
parents have a sense. There's like, hey, I gotta tell you something, mom and dad, about Sunny. It's like, she's pregnant, and they're like, okay, cool. You know what I mean? And so everything moved really, really fast with us, and we had Jacob first before we got married, and yeah, and it just happened like that.
How do you feel at this time? How's life right? Like, if you got a scale of 1 to 10, like, where's life at right now?
Yeah, so like so a little bit about Sonny too. Like so Sonny had like I have another son. He's 14, 15 now, Caden.
Hmm.
So she was married prior, divorced, and then, at first like it was like, hey, is this the right thing? Like,
Sure. Yeah.
I'm gonna inherit another son. But like I met Caden when he was 7 and 8, and but he's the sweetest kid. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? He's a gamer.
Oh,
So like
yo.
so now you get to see how kids are like nowadays. It's like, man, he's a game, but he's this kid is like super smart. Like he's the type, he goes to Sunny Hills too, which is crazy where I went to school. He went to my elementary school. So it's such a small world.
Yo.
Yeah, he went to my elementary school. He went to junior high, same junior high parks as me, Sunny Hills. But he's such a smart kid. Like kids nowadays, like he just YouTube stuff. Like bro, he's like, how'd you get an A in that class? Like, how'd you learn the Pythagorean theorem? Yada yada yada. He's like, oh, he's YouTubed it, and I get A's, like better than I ever did. You know what I mean? And so like for me, it was just kind of like everything happened so naturally with us as a family and being a dad. Uh, but like when Sunny was like pregnant with Jacob,
Mm.
it was hard because we were living in Tustin at the time.
Yo.
I was just learning to be a loan officer. And if you know Tustin, Irvine, it's like the rich area
Yeah.
of the Asians. And like we felt like we were like fake it till you make it. Like,
Sure.
like we, we barely had like money in our account, I felt like. And we're like, okay, if our account hits like this amount, like let's go talk to your mom and dad and live with them. It got to that point.
Mm.
Like we were like worried, and I had to sell my DJ set. So this is like my son is
Mm.
born, like the Korean culture. He was gonna have like his 100 day. Sarah, you know what's up? The 100 day, right? when they turned that, it's a big birthday,
It's huge.
right? And like I was just like, dude, like I gotta make sure that I have the best party for my kid because like this is something you don't get to do again.
Sure.
I remember selling my CDJs for a couple $1,000s. My like everything, like my speakers, my my mixer, everything, so that I could give my kid like the best birthday possible. But it's weird because you look back at life and like even though you were struggling, like you never felt like you were struggling,
Mm.
and it was my wife that convinced me to be a loan officer because I was a processing manager,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then I was helping a company set up, and like I was working through a salary negotiation, and I wanted this pay, and they're like, oh, that's a lot you're asking for, but I helped build the whole infrastructure. And she's like, you have your loan officer license. Why didn't you be a loan officer? Why didn't you learn sales? I was like, but I don't know how to sell. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So I would be watching like YouTube videos. I'd watch like Grant Cardone. I would pick up any podcast I could. Us living in Tustin, faking it till you make it. Like I was just like anything I could read about when it comes to sales.
Right.
Anybody in sales right now, the number one thing you need to read or listen to podcasts, Zig Ziglar. I guarantee you. Zig Ziglar is the ultimate sales professional. I think he's originally from Texas. He died, but like
Mm.
he like had these audiobooks where he would go to conferences and he would teach people how to sell and ask questions and things like that. And man, changing my life. Like you can listen to any audiobook when it comes to success. If you don't listen to Zig Ziglar and sell, like I don't know, maybe you're not top tier. No,
Sure. Yeah. Hey, listen. You gotta join. You gotta join my team.
right.
Okay. If you want to live in my city, you kind of have to perform.
Right.
I think it's. I think this is a. One thing I feel like is that during this time, it feels like you're busy.
Yeah.
Like there's a goal and there's always something new coming around the corner, and it's kind of like a chapter change, right? Because like that 100 days wasn't just 100 days for your son. It was like kind of like a phase 3 for you. Like you sold your DJ set, like you sold this, like you said, hey, look, I'm moving on from this life that like you that you know, from the frat guy to you know, right, you know, the football player to like, okay, now I need to be kind of like a family man, and I think that's I mean that's I wonder how that feels. Like, is it like I kind of was asking, you know, life at this time? Does it feel like, you know, hey man, it's a 10 out of 10, or does it feel like, you know, actually we're just are you content with this? Was it like, was the boys like, yo, what are you doing? Like, you know, was it, you know, how do you feel like it was during this moment?
It was hard because it's kind of like, imagine having a conversation with your wife. Like you're looking at bills, and you're like, what can we cut? Like, we can't make this payment. Like, can we get rid of this Netflix account, whatever? You know what I mean? And it was like, you know, getting a kosher salary to like, dang, like you have nothing. And when I started off, you know, it's called loan originator, being a loan officer, having a cold call, building your own book of business, you're getting rejected every single day.
Huge.
Like you're making like 80, 100 phone calls. And, you know, a lot of so for me, it's called self-generate. So it's not like working for like a Bank of America or Wells where you get like this salary and you sit at a desk and people walk into your branch because they know the name.
Huge.
You know, I work for a company that's like a direct lender. So there's like hundreds of thousands of direct lenders. And actually realtors rather work with a direct lender because you have your own team. Everything's done in-house and you close faster than a big bank.
Yeah.
With a big bank, it takes a long time to close,
Yeah.
and they work 9 to 5, and people just walk into that branch because they know the name. Being a direct lender, you have to get your own business because they don't know your name.
Right.
They don't know your company. At the time, you know, for example, I was at OGI at one point, you know, people would go like, what's OGI? I'm like, Original Gangsters of Irvine. You know, it was like no one knew what OGI meant. Like it's Oniglo. It's a bank. It's a direct lender.
Yeah.
So here you're having a cold call and getting rejected, and you have to build a book of business because realtors, you know, when you look for a house, the consumer goes to the realtor like, oh, hey, you're a realtor. Help me find a house.
Yeah.
Well, before I help you find a house, you got to talk to a loan officer to see what you're pre-approved at.
Yeah.
And so at the time, we had our kind of like a goal. And so my first 3 to 6 months, just cold call, getting rejected, meeting people, hoping business comes in, and like not seeing my first deal close till after like 90 days. So it takes like 90 days to see your first deal, and you're seeing your savings deplenish. And it was hard because we felt like, what are we doing here in a rich city when we don't feel rich ourselves? So, you know, my first year being a loan officer, I was like the top of my branch. I actually did the best out of every loan officer. I was the number one producer out of my branch. Second year, same thing, because like I just have that drive. I don't know if it's like I'm not like a astronomical sign person, but like I guess Capricorns, we're very like motivated and we want to be the tops and we want to be best. I've always had that personality. Like, just give me like the manual or let me learn something and I can be the best at it.
Sure.
And I knew I'd be a really good loan officer if I just kind of like, you know.
You just got the tools to be able to,
right.
get the skill to get it easy.
So then we're like, so I'm top producing at my branch every single year, pretty much, I felt like. And then we moved out of Tustin and we rented a condo in Buena Park. But like to go from Tustin to Buena Park, it felt like a downsizing of life. You know what I mean? So that was kind of defeating, but we were doing it for a reason. We wanted to save up money so that we could buy our house. Yeah, and it was the best thing we ever did. Like, so it felt like we were eating top ramen while everybody was like living a lavish lifestyle, but we were just stacking chips. And it was the best thing ever because now I can give people financial advice because we stacked chips and we did a great job and we bought our house and we put like a huge down payment.
You're ready to go.
Right. So we bought a house in Fullerton, so now I'm back in Fullerton. You know, I lived in Irvine for a while, moved back to Fullerton, and it was the smartest thing because I could give people solid financial advice because I've been successful. We have a great savings. We put a huge down payment. So we didn't skip the steps. Because nowadays people always look to hack everything. They want to skip steps. They don't want to climb that mountain. They want to see if there's an elevator or a helicopter that can take them to the top of the mountain. They don't realize that you got to fall. Life is a constant journey of falling, succeeding, starting over. And you have to humble yourself. So, because when I got into the mortgage profession, it was humbling to get rejected the first time and saying, hey, I need to be a processor because I can't sell. And then when I was a loan officer, I went with my buddy Daniel David, who we DJ'd together. We happened to be we're DJ duo Kick Rocks together. I was like, Daniel, dude, I'm going to humble myself, bro. Like, you know, you're a branch manager. Teach me how to be an LO. Like, I don't care. Like, I just want a small percentage if I help these other loan officers close a file. You know what I mean? And so you have to really humble yourself. I think that's the biggest thing that I learned in life.
This grind to the top, right, to where you are now. You said your son's now 6?
Yep. 6.
6 years of like going from there to this point in time. Like, did you expect to see yourself like when you're at that when he was born to now? Like, man, dude, this is the goal. Like, was there a doubt in your mind, or was there like, nah, look, we're gonna make this happen?
You're right. You have to. You can't have doubt. You know, you have to really believe in yourself and your capabilities, that you're built more to life than what you think you're capable of. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think every person has, they call the God particle or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Everybody has that ability for greatness. You have to tap into it and have that abundance mindset. So, you know, me listening to all these podcasts and things like that, I was feeding my brain to have that abundance and gratitude. Waking up every morning, having affirmations. Yeah. And simple things like thankful, you know, thank you, Jesus, for waking up today, being able to walk. Thank you, Jesus, for having a roof over my head and food. You know, so I turned that abundance into something of gratitude, and to know that, like, hey, man, like, if my goal is to make $1 million, I make $1 million. You have to have that. And a lot of times it's hard because it's also upbringing, right?
Right.
Like, I had to break away from that too, because also, like, think about it, like, my parents were very humble. So they're like very religious Catholics. They're very much like, hey, it's not about this, it's about a holier life.
Sure.
And money is the root of all evil. So imagine breaking away from that mindset of like money is evil to going, money can do a lot in terms of taking care of your family and helping others. And without money, then like my kids could struggle. You know, my kid goes to Montessori right now, bro. Like, dude, he's like swim. He has like swim classes. He could take golf and tennis if he wanted there.
It's insane. I don't think a lot of people don't know what that means, but like this kid's living the dream, man.
Yeah. He's 6 years old. You know what I mean? Like, but it's because like
the grind,
you learned, the grind.
And how old? I'm sorry. How old was that when he was? Do you remember how old you were? 6 years. I don't know how old you are now. So
43.
43. Yeah. A lot of people are like, "Oh man, it's too late."
Yeah,
it's too late. I can't start, man. I should have done it in my 20s.
You nailed it.
Should have done it in my 30s. Like, but you just that's what then until that grind or
no, I was like in my 30s, like my mid 30s when I started.
And just started going after it. It's never too late in a way.
Yeah, because it's like, think about all the stories, right? Like, what was it, like Colonel Sanders?
Yeah,
was like 60 something, whatever, when he discovered the
recipe for his chicken. Yeah,
right. It's just that mindset. Like you know, don't compare your chapter 1 to someone's chapter 30. Yeah, that's my biggest advice to people, because sometimes we compare like I still compare myself to Min, for example. Min, who I mentioned, like he runs What's a Mortgage, and when I saw him run that social media account like 5 years ago, or more than that, 7 years ago, and he was one of the first loan officers to be on social media, and on Facebook and Instagram, and I remember him going like, "Hey, James, here's a referral. She's looking to buy in Texas."
Mm.
And she's like, "I'll do everything the Wham family wants me to do." I'm like, "Wham? What's a mortgage?"
Wham.
Yeah, like, dude, like,
She's already speaking the lingo.
right. She's like, "Oh, I watched Min's videos on credit. I watched Min's video on, savings, this and that.
Yeah.
And whatever you guys tell me." And so when that happened like 3 or so years ago, and I was like, dude, there's something to social media. Like, I knew that one day I wanted to do social media, Instagram, and now I do TikToks.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like you have to have that mindset of like always progressing. And the crazy thing is, as you get older, you get smarter.
Yeah.
Like I'm a way smarter version than I am when I was in my 20s, when I felt I knew everything in life. And you look back like, dude, I didn't know anything. As you get older, your brain just gets like, I just feel like you just get better and better. And for me, it's always about how can you gamify the system. So what I mean by that, so like when you're a teacher, I figured how to gamify being the best teacher ever. So I'll be like, okay, kids, you have 5 minutes to get out your social studies book, your notepad, and this assignment. And I would put up a laptop and I would put up the clock, and it would be on the projector. It would be a clock that counts. And I'd say, in 5 minutes, the first team to be ready will get $100 dino dollars. And the kids are like, $100 dino dollars. You know what I mean? And all I did was I went online one time and I found like you could print out dino dollars, and I would use that as my money system to teach and reward kids for the teacher store at the end of the month, so that they had something to work for.
Yeah.
And they were in groups, so it taught them teamwork. And I studied so much about being a great teacher, like all the kids were in little tables and pods, and I would just walk around in one continuous loop, and so I see every kid and what they're doing. So they never would act up because you gamified the system. You knew how to manage your kids to where they were like machines. And when we went out, like getting rejected, like, when you get older, you meet girls, you get rejected. And you're like, you have to, like, dude, I'm Asian, I'm short. I'm going against like good looking white guys like Grady, picking up chicks. So how do you gamify the system? Well, you become uber successful and you get bottle service, because like then all the girls come to the table. You know what I'm saying? And then so you kind of figure it out. So with what's crazy thing about Min is I learned so much about like how you flip the script in life.
Yeah.
And so for me, owning a home in Fullerton, I now live in the hills. So when I grew up in Fullerton, I always dreamed about living in the hills. My wife and I literally would drive to the neighborhood, and we would drop off Caden. I remember a couple years ago, we dropped off Caden to his junior high. We sat there in our car. We looked at these $1 million homes, and we're like, one day we're going to live here. We said, one day we're going to live here. Like, not only did we live there, but we like rejected some of those homes. We're like, no, that home's not even good enough. Like, we want this house. And now my house, like, I'm overlooking the city. I see Orange County from my house. Like, I see the Disneyland fireworks. I can see all the way to Irvine. Wow. Like, every day I can look to Irvine and go, I was there faking the funk. But now I'm here because you learn how to be the best loan officer better. You learn how. So now I do TikToks. I started last December, like 0 followers. And I was motivated by Min because, like, a story of 3 years ago, like, social media works. Yeah. Everybody's attention now is on TikTok. And then I started an account where I do mortgage hacks and tips. And I think I'm funny, so I do a lot of, like, funny stuff. Like, things that are relatable, like, oh, your client just quit their job, or they just got a new car, and you do it, you lip sync it to something. And then I do a lot of hacks, like, how to do this, how to do, like, how to buy multiple properties and how to do this, like that. And then I remember starting and having like only my cousin Kim, shout out to my cousin Kim. She was like the only one that followed me. And like I had like 5 followers, and then now I have 16,000, and it's growing, and it's really cool to see that you now created a community. Like 16,000 people follow you. That like it's like having a store and 16,000 people going to the store.
Mr. Man.
Right, and like my goal is to keep growing that account, and then what I mean, and that's like my example of game, like always thinking about what is the future and how can you place yourself in the future. And I closed 4 deals from TikTok last month. You know what I mean?
You're 2/5 of the way into life, I like to say.
Right.
You're not even halfway through, and you're like, look at just where you're at. It's like what? You literally were on a boat, like you are.
Right.
It's just
the jungle people. That's what people saw us as.
And just you're now on the top of the hill. You're seeing the world. You're like, and you come from this humble beginning. You still hold on to it. Like it's not like you're sitting here boasting. Like you're still holding on to this. Like one of the things I find interesting. This is just me. Just a small, very very small glimpse of interactions I've had with you. You don't make anyone feel less than, and it's so interesting. Like you don't feel like being called those names. You want to get back a little bit, you know what I'm saying. All the people who used to get the girls, you couldn't, you never feel like you want to retaliate. There's no retaliation. Now that where you are now, and just real quick before we ask the question, can you tell me the name of your business that you have built, and can you give me a little bit of where can people find you on TikTok?
Yeah. My name is, my TikTok handle is James the Lender, James Lender, and I still work for a type of company. It's called a direct lender, like hundreds of thousands of direct lenders.
Sure, yeah,
but now I'm a branch manager, and so I have my own team, and so I do these TikToks to not only teach people. See, I get to be a teacher.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's like I teach people all the time. And I learned that I was a really good teacher. I simplify the mortgage process. I tell people hey, this is the steps you need to take. This is how you get pre-approved. And I make the process simple for everybody. And then I just realized and the fun thing with TikTok is I just stumbled on it. I mean, Min was the seed that was planted. I want to be that one day. And then I should have, and then Instagram was trying to compete with TikTok a year ago, or 2 years ago. And they do reels. And then I was like, oh, let me just play around with the reels. So I did a video of my son. I was explaining to you earlier with that video of that Bruno Mars, talking to the moon song. Mm-hmm. And then it became viral with kids closing their eyes, these little kids. And when they open their eyes are like beautiful blue or green. And that's the whole, talking to the moon part. And I did it with my son. He has big, beautiful eyes, but he had these funny, he had these glow in the dark neon.
Yo.
So I had the lights off kind of, you could still see his face. And then when it hits the hook part of it, the talking to the moon, he clicks on the glasses and it glows.
It glows.
And it got 40,000 views. And I was like, wait a minute. I only have 800 friends. You know what I mean? How are these views? So you realize that Instagram was pushing, the algorithm was pushing out video content because they're trying to keep people on Instagram and not on TikTok. It's a competition. And then that's when I was like, okay, I'm going to start doing reels and do videos. And then I was like, okay, let's go to TikTok. And TikTok account is doing a lot more than Instagram, because I feel like Instagram is a lot like your friends and your family.
Sure, yeah.
You know what I mean? And people are kind of looking to see what Sarah's up to on the weekend, or oh, look at that wedding, and oh, look at the cute dogs. But TikTok's just endless entertainment. The algorithm reads you so well. They know what you're into. You into sports, you see nothing but sports. You into cooking, you see nothing but cooking. You into finances, it shows you all these finance videos. And the craziest part where I kind of felt like I knew I made it was if you like, so TikTok right now, the word is SEO, you know,
Yeah.
and so it's kind of like pretty much it's like the new Google. It's how you Google. So if you ask millennials and people that search, they don't Google stuff anymore. They just find it on social
Yeah.
media.
Yeah.
Like they go on YouTube and they go on TikTok, and if you type in the search word mortgage, which is like anything can pop up mortgage, I always like, man, one day I wish I
Yo.
would see myself. Google mortgage, I'm like one of the top 10 videos that shows up. I have like 800,000 views on one. Another one I did have like 1 million views on. And it's just crazy to me that like I looked at this as like, okay, I'm just gonna give it 90 days. Only my cousin follows me. I'm obviously not that funny or educational. And then now it's like doing really well. So